Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Grassroots Racer. Last week I clicked over 80 episodes, so if you missed any along the way, make sure you check them out on my YouTube and Spotify channels. And if you have missed any of the awesome interviews that I've done in the past, make sure you check them out. And I've had lots of fun interviewing people who get really involved in motorsport. I look forward to speaking to tonight's guest, as he's been really supportive of what I've been doing with Grassroots Racer, and as well as being, he's competed in Formula Ford. He has a great podcast as well where, he likes to speak to similar people as myself who are involved in motorsport at a different level, not always at the top. So, he's super passionate about his racing. And to find out more, I welcome Dan Holihan to the show. So, welcome, Dan. How are you tonight?
I'm good, man. Good. Just cooking dinner in the back, and I'm happy to be here, man.
Yeah, thank you so much. And just before I begin, everyone, I do apologize if I sound a bit funny tonight. I do currently have a cold. So if I, run out of breath, that's probably why. Okay, so I mentioned that you are very passionate about motorsport. Where did it all begin for you?
So it began when I just went high karting with some classmates from school. So what happened was there was I think there was 20 kids going on this trip to like a kids' parties, and there was 21 kids on the bus. Anyway, one kid at the time, they filled up the 20 seats, and I was actually the odd one left out. And then I ended up actually getting swapped over because one of the kids ended up being scared of hopping in a go-kart, and that's how it kind of all began for me, really, way back in like 2000 or 99 or something. So a long time now.
Yeah. I believe you know Benjamin Rhodes as well through high karting.
Oh yeah, Ben Rhodes has followed my Formula Ford, and that's how I've raced in Victoria, like I think 6 years ago, and he just followed my racing career, and we've become good mates since then. But yeah, he's pretty passionate himself.
Yeah, I've had him on the show, and I do know him through what I do on the sim racing as well. He's a part of a group that hold like a league racing sort of a thing.
Yeah, he did a bit of V's, and I've noticed that you're pretty keen on your V's. You had a crash recently and got a new car. How's that?
Yeah, the new car was it said it was complete, but I had to strip it all and rebuild it again. So that's not really ideal. And we still had a lot of issues with it. The heads in it were gone. So when we got home from Sandown, we had to change that straight away, considering it wasn't running all cylinders. So yeah, I put the engine, which I had from the car that I had the crash in, put that in for Phillip Island, and yeah, hopefully we do a lot better.
Yeah, I love that track, Phillip Island. It's probably my favourite track out of all the tracks in, around Australia at the moment, minus Bathurst. So yeah, before lockdown for me, I finished 4th out of 50 in historic, so that was probably one of my best races. And yeah,
Phillip Island is a brilliant track, but to be honest, I've said this in previous interviews, I do prefer Sandown as a racing circuit. It's, to me, it's a real driver's circuit. You really got to be, on your marks to do really well there.
Yeah. I like Sandown.
I had a bit of a slip up in the last race, but you live and learn.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. But you did run CIK Stars of Karting. So what sort of series is that for those who don't know?
So I ran before Karting Australia turned into Karting Australia. It was AKA, so Australian Karting Association. This was back in the early 2000s. And I used to run J's when I was a kid, which is the junior level. I never did midgets or rookies as a kid. My stepfather helped me get into go-karts after the high kart thing. I did like a year of practice, and then I was quite nervous into my first race as a brief period with Top Gun, which is where Christian Lindbaum, there's been heaps of guys, Joey Mawson, a lot of those guys have come through Top Kart, Kart 1 racing back in the day, and they were like the HRT of the day.
Yeah.
And then obviously it eventuated from there, and I went to other kart teams. I went with my karting mechanic, Peter Galvin. He started my CIK thing because he was the promotional manager for CIK Stars of Karting, and he was actually trying to bring Stars of Karting, or not Stars of Karting, CIK back from 2004. So it was like a 6-year period where they'd actually given up on the whole CIK thing. And I used to look up to guys like Matt Wall, as I said, Christian Lindbaum. There was Jason Heinrich, Troy Hunt. There's a few guys who I want to get also on my podcast from that era. And that was just where it all began. And obviously I had like a bit of a social media presence back on Facebook, like yourself back in the day. And I managed to get a karting license. And that's how it all happened for me, really. So Stars of Karting was just brought in via Fox Sports, and that's where Chad Naylon also got his start as well. So, and then Brock Feeney's come through there recently. Who else? There was Bryce Forward in Stars of Karting. It was quite a good thing back then. But yeah, it just originated from like CIK back in the 90s, and I've loved karting. I've never lost love for it. So I've got a Facebook marketplace go-kart that I bring out every now and then just to have a fang in. So yeah, I absolutely love go-karts. What about yourself?
Well, I obviously was very successful in karting. I have collected over 80 trophies in 4 years of karting. So I would say I did pretty well in my years in. I think you would have had them as whatever was Rookie and Midgets. What was the first one?
Yeah, Midgets was the first one. So what is it called in your era?
Yeah, so we had Cadet 9, and in 29 races, I had 23 podiums. So that would have to be my most successful year. But yeah, I loved karting at the time. And then, I just moved forward through karting, and then supercars was sort of my last experience, and I really enjoyed that, like driving on big tracks in such a small go-kart going really fast. So yeah, that was probably my best memories from karting.
Yeah. So for your supercarts, who was your go-kart team? Because I don't know much about the superkart scene.
That was just ran by us. We just did it out of our own backyard. We've never run with a team. So, but when you were doing the CIK Stars of Karting, like you also did some promo clips and interviews. So could you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's pretty embarrassing times, but I did post that because I was bored over lockdown. When that happened, I had obviously the radio background, and for me, they put me in front of the camera, and I just was used to explain the KF1 class. And the KF1 class back then, which went into the Karting Australia era, was a front brake and rear brake kart without the gearbox, obviously, of a KZ2.
Yeah.
The KF1 class kind of died down, but I was there made to promote it in a way because I just had the media background. I wish I'd gotten better results in KF1. Unfortunately, I was about a second behind the rest of the field. I was just never cut out for Stars of Karting. But my like niche, which is like Formula Ford for me these days, is like the Kent class that I like is the Clubman class, which is what I used to love. Clubman Light was just the bang-on class back in the day. You get like oversubscribed classes. There'd be plenty of guys you'd be racing against. Clubman Pro is the mix between the heavies and the lights. You get like, Adam Hughes from down in your way.
Yeah.
Jake Spencer was in it. You get Daniel Rockford. You get a fair few decent blokes racing in CIK, which would create the absolute like guys who Dave Serra was in it as well, James Serra. Just to make the top 10 in those days was just incredible, really. And I got a fair few podiums. I think I got about 48 podiums in go-karts. And yeah, so the 48 podiums for me in go-karts was pretty impressive. Considering I was racing like the echelon of, I think, like a decent amount of guys who went on to cars these days, like Scott McLaughlin as well. So Clubman Light for me and Clubman Heavy and Clubman Pro was the ultimate, competitiveness for me. And unfortunately for me in Stars of Karting, I was just never cut out for it. But, I do enjoy racing and I'm still passionate about go-karts. So, and it's kind of gone on to the Formula Ford. Yeah,
well, did you ever have like a favorite go-karting track? Because there's definitely some good ones for me. Do you know Swan Hill down here?
The only one I've raced due to Stars of Karting was actually Todd Road, but I've heard of Swan Hill. Oh no, sorry, I raced at Puckapunyal.
Yeah.
What's Swan Hill? I've never actually.
It's got a banked. it's got a banked sort of corner on it. It's like they called it the Thunderdome. It was actually a really good circuit.
Yeah, right.
I'll quickly find a picture of it. But what was your favorite track in karting?
It'd have to be my home track, Eastern Creek. I was a bit of a one-track wonder, unfortunately. The other one, second to that, was Newcastle.
Yeah.
I used to race at those two clubs mainly back here. Dubbo, I raced at too. Dubbo was pretty cool. I actually went up once to Rally. Rally was turned into a drift track later on, and it still just has been just totally just demolished now because of the cars drifting around it.
Yeah.
But back then, it was like the Nürburgring, I'd say, Australian go-karts. So, I don't know, there's a fair few tracks. I do like the fast tracks, which is why I like Eastern Creek on the big track now and at Phillip Island now, but I'm more of a just a foot flat to the floor type of driver.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I just got to say, I've heard of Eastern Creek. That's a pretty fast track. And Newcastle, that's the one with the big jump, isn't it? The one where the carts...
Yeah, ski jump. Ski jump is what it's called. Yeah, there's a hit like a classic photo online, which I don't know if you can get up on your podcast, of Johnny Grother going up on on all wheels, just leaping over in his Cosmic cart. He's got the Chuppa Chup helmet. It's somewhere on Facebook or online somewhere. But Newcastle was just an amazing track too. It also has that downhill like slope, and I preferred it going anti-clockwise, I think, to the normal way. But yeah, it was fun. I think I've done a few races where I've actually competed in both classes, and I was all right on some weekends. And I used to just drive my chassis to the ground. I don't know if you've done that yourself, Ed, and we've just had a chassis. It's just like the prime chassis you want to use over another one, or do you just do you buy I had a second-hand cart for me, and it was just like in Clubman, I just used that cart until it got completely soft and was scraping the ground.
Yeah. Oh well. We tend to find that, once I bent a go-kart, it went quicker. That's what we figured out.
Yeah. Yeah. I've actually heard of a few of those stories on my podcast. It seems to be the way, actually. You bend a cart and sometimes that would actually react better.
It's kind of hard to see, but do you see the bank?
Yeah. Cool. So it's like a speed bolt.
I'm going to try and pull it out of the light, yeah.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah, cool.
Mum could probably get that up. But, it's bank corner. And in a go-kart, like for a 9-10-year-old, 2.5 Gs is pretty big for what speed we were doing, which is quite little. So, yeah, that corner was pretty insane. But, I don't know. I liked most go-kart tracks as I moved along. But then, I got into V's and it was really cool because superkarting really inspired me to go quicker. So what really pushed you to go to Formula Ford?
For me, I don't know. I was looking around at classes for a while. I actually didn't jump straight into Formula Ford, actually. I went to Legend Cars on dirt at Parramatta Speedway for a bit, and that got me used to like the way the Formula Fords drift around the track. But I had a good go at that. I got up to like 5th in an A main at one stage, which was pretty cool. And then, that deal fell apart for me. I just did like a lease deal with Legend Cars at the time. And then I went into Formula 4 with Tim Beale at Anglo Motorsport, went into one of his lease cars. Then I was working as a nightclub promoter. And then after that, I worked multiple jobs as well. I was working in a nightclub and managed to save up enough cash to go 50-50 with my stepdad in a car. And then I bought my own Formula Ford and have been, selling and upgrading my cars ever since and just love the class, really.
You did the Legend Cars in Speedway. What was it like? Another thing is in V's for the next round at Phillip Island, we now have to use the radio box where the stewards talk to us. So you probably had that at Speedway, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, I had I did have that. We have that in Formula Ford every now and then with the officials box thing, the little yellow thing.
Yeah, the little yellow thing. We have to use that next round. I've never used it before. Some tips I've already got is bring multiple pairs of earphones and don't have it on max volume.
That's probably true. It does get annoying because like you'll go through a corner and then the officials will yell something out because there might be a crash up ahead and you might get a bit of a scare because you're halfway focusing. It's a bit annoying. Lucky it's at Phillip Island for you, so it won't be as bad, but I'd say for like Sandown and Winton, it would be quite annoying.
Yeah.
But yeah, those things do get frustrating. For me, because I've raced Formula Ford for so long, I've worked out with my team to use that little box thing via our team radio. So my engineer would say what happens on track. So I guess that's a benefit for me. But yeah, those things with the Formula Vs must be pretty cool for you. Does any Vs have radio in at all?
Unfortunately,
no. Okay.
No. I think it's sort of necessary though, because there is in Formula V and Formula Ford, there are a lot of crashes because of the young kids getting wheel to wheel and things like that. So I do believe we should have radios at least because I don't even know how many laps I got to go and how to plan my strategy, like where I'm going to pass what's and what. Because you race at Phillip Island, so you'd know this. You do not want to be leading on the last lap.
Yeah, it's like Talladega.
Yeah, so if I got someone in my ear saying you're heading on to the last lap, like let them through, then like I had to make a mistake last time I was there because I only found out it was the last lap. Like, how did I find out? Oh, that's right. Someone had a pit board out for someone else, and I saw it. I was like last lap, so I coming down to MG, I hit the brakes really hard to make it look like I locked up. Then they went through and I just jumped in behind them and passed them. So it was a bit cheeky, but...
Yeah, quick manoeuvres. Most people actually don't know this about me. So even though I raced Formula Ford for so long, I've actually looked up to a few Formula V drivers, which you'd probably know, Ayrton. So the guys that I look up to is Jimmy Dean, James Dean. He's retired now. Have you heard of him?
Yeah, I think...
Jake Rowe.
Jake Rowe, yeah.
Jake Rowe as well.
I raced against him, yep.
Yeah, and then there's Dylan Thomas, who's come on my podcast. So those two guys who I've also mentioned, I'd also like on my podcast. But I think V's, which some people don't give enough credit for, is it teaches you just that, I don't know, the steadiness in the wheel, the calmness, the, as you said, the calculating to get to the finish line first.
Yeah.
Which I totally respect you for doing, Ayrton, because honestly, V's, to me, I've driven a V 2 times, I think, for memory. They're probably one of the most hardest classes to get used to because it's just so calculated, quite slow, and you've just got to be so patient. Do you know what I mean? Compared to a Ford where you can just throw it in there.
No, but this is the thing, because we got no horsepower. We got to figure out ways to go faster. So the toe is a vital thing. Like at Phillip Island, you'll see them. It'll be like Monza in 2019. No one will want to lead in qualifying.
Yeah,
like, the light will go green at the end of the pit lane. And people will just wait because they do not want to be first.
Yeah, that's so true.
Some people wait in their garage for everyone to go, and then they'll just jump out behind the last guy. It's like, but because everyone's doing it, no one's going, yeah, it's really funny. It's a whole game, but yeah, the Formula Fords would have a lot more horsepower. I haven't driven one yet, but, anyone out there, I'll drive your Formula Ford.
Yeah. I'd love to start my own Formula Ford team one day, Ayrton, so that might be a heads up for you. So if I ever come to retirement, I'll keep you in mind. So yeah, honestly, Ayrton, if you get a go, there's plenty of teams, as you know, down in Victoria that would give you a go. It's just, as you know, because you're racing on a budget yourself as a privateer, it's just so hard to get that last like 10% of the budget in to race the next class. Lucky for me, my parents were very supportive, so that's what I had for me. But yeah, definitely V's are a crazy class, and then Ford's just, especially at national level in Formula Ford and the Duratec, that's just a total other level again.
Yeah. Well, I think I'd prefer to race Kents because even though the Duratecs are the more popular one and the faster one, I think the Kents would be a lot better to learn proper, I don't really know, like a proper driving style. They seem like they're very hard to get around the track, and if you can figure out how to do it right, you'll be very quick. If I'm sort of in the ballpark,
yeah, you are in the ballpark. So the Kent class is obviously naturally aspirated compared to the fuel injected Duratecs, which is where you would come from. Like that's where you would suit yourself, and probably other guys coming through. That's kind of just like, the perfect stepping stone to a Duratec if you want to go to that level, especially a kid your age. So I think honestly, the Kents are an amazing class. A lot of people underrate the historic Formula Ford racing as a learning curve. I know Cameron Walters, who's won a state championship by the historic stuff. I've got Jimmy Vernon, who's on my podcast this season. as you would have seen in my trailer recently. A lot of those guys did the historic stuff. So for you, Ayrton, on a budget, the historic stuff could be a good learning curve. It's just about getting the right car, really, and, you know, getting a good deal. But, yeah, maybe that's a good goal for you.
Just quickly, for those who don't know, when is your next season starting for your podcast?
Depending on when this episode comes out, it comes out every Tuesday at 8 a.m. or 6 a.m. really. But, you know, when people wake up, my podcast will be out on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts. I'll have YouTube as well. YouTube won't be the full show. It'll probably be like 20-minute grabs of the show, but it won't be the whole thing. So if you want to like get your spurt of On the Couch with Huli, you can definitely go to YouTube. YouTube's going to have some crazy content too. So it's not just me chatting to them. There'll be also visual effects and stuff like that, kind of like a TV show. So I've kind of programmed the YouTube thing like a TV type of scenario, but the whole focus for me is definitely like Spotify and Apple. And I'm, unlike yourself, promoting it on Facebook, doing a podcast on Facebook. For me, that was just too much because I'm spreading myself thin as it is trying to go to YouTube. So
well, the idea behind Facebook was because I already had a following here. It was probably a good idea to start here. And then when we first started, we had no idea how to get onto Spotify. And then I was just recently sitting there. Dad's like, "Have you looked up how to get on Spotify yet?" And I was like, "No." Nah. So I just looked it up and found an easy way. And then I just did it and started uploading.
Like, I love what you're doing. It's great for like, I think for your genre compared to my genre is you interviewing other younger kids is great because they're going through what you're going through. Where myself, I'm interviewing guys who are more so my generation. And I like my age thing, my age limit's 18, purely because I'm like nearly 40. So I've got to actually have like, I don't want YouTube kids because mine's not a kids show. But for you, I think it's great because you're interviewing kids in your age group, which will help them learn from you, and then interviewing guys like myself and, you know what I mean? It helps, you know, Noah Sands loved it. There's been a few kids on your podcast which has really loved it. So for me, I think the difference between you and I is I just, as you said, I have a different kind of genre, but we're both the same really. Do you know what I mean?
Talking about Noah, congrats on F3. He's been dominating. And I think, I'm pretty sure I just saw that he's got an S5000 drive now. So, you know, great job to him. He's doing really well. It's really hard to put an episode out all the time, but, you know, I get it done. But could you just tell us about your time you went to the Bathurst 6 hour?
Oh, Bathurst 6 hour, yeah. That's my one, like, tin top kind of thing that I did. So I actually got my teammates from Anglo Motorsport in the year in 2016 or 15. We'd finished 1, 2, 3 in the championship, I think, at that year. And we all wanted to race the Bathurst 6 hour because I think that was when the Bathurst 6 hour just came back, or it was the year after it just started getting promoted and whatnot. And we got a hairdresser car, which is a Suzuki Swift, which you're used to driving those small type of cars.
Yeah.
And for us, we had quite a strategy going into it. We realized that the Suzuki Swift could last on a set of tires the whole race from start to finish, because the Suzuki Swift was just, we were averaging like a 1 minute 59, which was not very quick, obviously, around Bathurst. So we managed to calculate the driver changes and the fuel stops to finish. I think we finished 22nd from memory, or 25th, I don't know, 22nd, 23rd, 20, I don't know, in the 20s out of like a 60 car field. And it was awesome, to be honest. That was the first time I got like my Bathurst trophy. I'm still trying to get a Bathurst trophy in Formula Ford there. That's kind of another goal for me. I just want to get a sprint race trophy at Bathurst. But I'm back to the 6 hour. The 6 hour was just an awesome experience. I still want to do it in a quicker car these days. I still want to get a few Bathurst trophies. There's a few goals for me. I don't just want to be known as a Formula Ford racer / go-karter. I just really want to win a state championship.
You've come so close.
I know, like numerous times. I know. I feel like, I don't know if you're that age. Do you know of a guy called Mark Martin in NASCAR? Have you heard of him?
Oh, is he like the Glenn Seaton equivalent?
He's like, no, Glenn Seaton won. He's like I don't know how to say it. Yeah, kind of like the Glenn Seaton equivalent, but I don't know. Mark Martin is kind of like, do you watch much NASCAR at all?
Oh, a little bit. If it's on,
so So there was back in the day, there was Kyle Edwards and Mark Martin, and these guys would always get close and be very consistent, like me and yourself, racing, but be just missing out on the championship.
Yeah.
And for me, it's been like absolutely like that's why I'm so keen to like have a crack at it with Bart as a privateer team this year. Just to win a state championship, honestly, for me, is the goal. Like after that, I just want to have a real crack at other stuff. But dude, like I've been so many times so close to winning a state championship, and I'm racing this year. Like honestly, in my opinion, Will Lowing, who I'm racing against in the state championship, this kid is honestly one of the quickest kids I've ever seen in Formula Ford. He's come out of the box. He's literally like 1.8 seconds up the road, and I'm like on the front row anyway. But like this, like honestly, I wish I was 10 years younger because I'd probably be able to keep up with him. But like, it's good. It's like honestly finishing second to like a rising star like himself. And there's Max Mason, who's obviously got selected for the Ferrari Academy as well.
Yeah.
Racing two kids in the Kent class amongst the regulars that I've raced against is just honestly like racing this championship, no matter where I finish, has just been an awesome challenge for me this year. And, you know, if I finish second again or third again because of bad luck or whatnot, it is what it is really. But in terms of the rest of the stuff, if I can just win that state championship, that would be the dream, honestly. And, you know, if I do F3, as you said, like what Noah Sens is doing, and I will give credit to Noah. He's done an amazing job. He's kept his head down, eyes focused. And for me to interview, he's been keen to come on my podcast as well. He's made that quite clear for me as well. Once he obviously gets a few more, not like career stats under his belt and he turns over 18, I'll gladly have him on. But I think it's great. Like you got Jude Barguana going to S5000 and Noah himself and, you know, other guys that you've interviewed on your podcast having a crack at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, honestly, I think S5000 is bloody awesome.
Yeah, it definitely is a good category. Do you know of Driver Database? It's a website.
I do. I actually use that quite a lot on my own.
Yeah, I do. I used it and I was just pulling up and I was like, Holy, I was like, you've had so many second places and third places. You need to win a state championship.
Yeah, I know. I'm the bridesmaid. I was forever the number 2 driver for so many years, but you know, I've proven myself this year, honestly. My girlfriend Brooke, who's producing my podcast, has been an awesome just supporter of mine, just not with the podcast thing, but with the car racing as well. She's made me realize for me as I've gotten into my mid-30s that, you know, it's all about having fun. And I was taking it so seriously. And I think what happened for me back then is I was so determined just to win a championship and that was it. That I lost the fun part of racing. And honestly, if you lose that, what you're doing, which is perfect, which you do with your social media, if you lose that, like social media, like that, not the social media, if you lose that fun part of your racing, you're not going to enjoy it. So she brought that back. And honestly, if I can have a crack at it over the next 2 years, I'll be forever grateful if I do win a state championship. Yeah.
That reminds me of when I was in go-karting in Cadet 12, my dad moved me up so early. I was like 10 years old in Cadet 12, which was, he always moved me up early, right, to keep me competitive. Because in Cadet 9, I won it. My first year of racing, I dominated virtually, right? So he moved me straight up to Cadet 12, and I was in there for so long, and I just wasn't winning because these kids came along with all this money, whatever. So I actually started losing passion, and then he moved me up to juniors when I was 11, and luckily I was competitive, so I kept going with that, and that really motivated me to push. And then after 1 year, we just bumped that to go superkarting, and I had a lot of success there. And then we're in V's, and season couldn't get worse, but well, it can.
Honestly, I'm in the NAPA Academy as well. So if they are NAPA listening to your podcast, they can donate my money or whatever happens to me to you, man. Because honestly, you're doing it on way more of a tighter budget than I am. And like NAPA is 100% behind you because you're passionate. And honestly, man, you deserve that promotion and credit from them. And honestly, man, like,
thanks, Uli.
What you've done with your karting is, you know, I was a bit out of karting with all that type of thing, but yeah, man, like honestly, you're just doing really great.
Yeah, thanks so much, Uli. And you know, if I do get to go to Indianapolis from the NAPA thing, Roger Penske, watch out, I'm going to be hitting you with it all. Just follow me around the paddock. Can I drive for you?
Scotty McLaughlin, watch out.
I'll say that to him and Will Power. Will Power might be on his way soon. Who knows?
Yeah. There'll be a seat opening soon for you, brother.
Yeah. Well, thanks for chatting me so much. We've only got less than a minute, and you probably got to eat dinner.
Yeah. I cooked for myself, managed to get a squeeze of podcast in between, and I'm a man of many talents at the moment.
And he's going to win a Formula 4 championship. Now,
I hope so.
Thanks, Dan, so much. It's been awesome chatting to you tonight. I could chat to you all night, but, all good things must come to an end. I really wish you the best for season 2 of Huli on the Couch. And, I'll be waiting to tune in when it kicks off again. So will the viewers, because you guys will go and follow Huli on the Couch, keep up with it because he does a very good thing over there.
Honestly, from podcast to podcast, dude, you're doing like a really awesome job. Seriously,
no, thank you,
man. Like at your age, like I honestly wouldn't know the first thing about anything to do with recording. Like it took me till I was like 24 to do what you're doing. So honestly, dude, like you're doing an amazing job with your podcast.
Also, I wish you best with the Formula 4 Championship. Hopefully this time, you can get that state championship like you've been wanting so much. So, you're on fire and you will do great. So for anyone else racing this week, make sure to drive fast and take chances safely, of course. Thanks, Dan, so much, and I hope to see you around and about the racetrack in the future. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like Grassroots Racer, make sure to like and subscribe. Thanks, guys.